Hello and welcome back to the Good Life Lab with me, Dr. Dave, and this is kind of a special edition, a little off track of what I normally do, and I'm trying to do these, I'm calling them Diary of a Gay Therapist editions every once in a while, just to kind of check in with myself and with everyone else out there who's listening, what it's like for me as a therapist or, ex-therapist turned YouTuber day to day, and how I'm managing my mental health and well-being. And as I've mentioned before, it's not always something I have figured out, and so I'm in the same boat as most of you. I just maybe have a little more experience being older, but also going through some of the programs I've gone through and being licensed, and I have some basic knowledge that I like to share that helps, but doesn't mean I'm invulnerable to some of the ups and downs. So I'm actually at a retreat center outside of Canton, North Carolina. It's an Episcopalian retreat center called Lake Logan Conference and Retreat Center. So it's been a beautiful few days. It's rainy today. You can kind of see some of the rain behind me and hear the raindrops. But it's been a great weekend. It's still beautiful here, fall, October weather. And I'm going to try to just do this without editing too much, so I might stumble on some words, but I've written down a few things I just want to share with you all from my diary. And so I think what's brought this on recently is I woke up a couple nights ago around 3 a.m. and just not able to sleep because of some of the political and things going on in the world, and just obsessing over stuff and not real happy about where our country's going, our democracy is going, just human decency in the world. It seems like that's changing. Maybe that's obvious for most people, but it feels overwhelming, frustrating, and so just that woke me up the other night. And talked to my friend who I'm here with on this retreat, just personal retreat, about it, just trying to get it out and trying to get some perspective. Am I thinking about this too much? Am I obsessing? Am I overthinking it? Yes. But how do I process this as a way of connecting with somebody else, but also trying to figure out better strategies for myself to manage things. And so that's kind of where I've been. I'm going to share with you my thought process of what I've gone through, what I went through with my friend, and how you might do something similar to manage your own emotions. So I said, reflections on surviving stressful times. So I'm going to read through my notes and what I already shared with you. I talked to my friend about this, and we talked about, I thought, well, maybe it can be helpful in some therapeutic approaches to think about the worst case scenario. And so we talked about worst case scenario with what's happening in our country. And, I think when I think of worst case scenario, maybe I really don't think this will happen here, but who knows, is what happened to Viktor Frankl. He was a Swiss, I think, psychologist, and ended up in the, I think, Auschwitz, one of the concentration camps, Nazi Germany. And he was, and he did survive and wrote about it and was able to reflect on his experience in the concentration camp. And really, his book is called The Man's Search for Meaning. And he started to observe people that survived the concentration camp and those who didn't. And one of the distinctions was that those who survived had a kind of a vision for, or hope, or purpose beyond their present circumstances. They were looking to the future in a positive, hopeful way, in some way. And so when I think of survival skills in difficult times and stressful times, that's what my mind goes back to, is this is a worst case scenario. you can imagine how awful it was. And yet some people were able to survive while others didn't. And one of the keys was what I talk about a lot on this channel, and the series I'm in right now is moving from kind of languishing in loss to a good gay life. And so that's one key central aspect of it is finding a sense of meaning and purpose in any circumstance you're in, whether you're going through, a more a less stressful time or a very stressful and just trying to survive. The common theme is finding a purpose you can hold on to and hope for. And so that's a lot of what my conversation was with about my friend. That's a lot of my conversation was with him about that, finding that purpose in the midst of what seems like dire circumstances sometimes, whether you think that's an overstatement or not, or you think it's just a phase we're going through as a country. It sometimes feels that way to me and a lot of my queer friends who are wrestling with, okay, where does this, if things continue, what is a logical, possibly, future for people like us who are queer? And so that's a common fear I'm hearing and feeling myself. So that's one thing, is trying to find a sense of purpose in the midst of this turmoil. And just reflecting on that too, that's something I've done, and maybe you heard me talk about this on this channel, is there was a very dark time in my life, several throughout my life, around my identity and trying to not be gay, my Christian faith and my orientation as a gay man, trying to reconcile those and just finding myself in very depressed spaces, more so before I came out, just trying to reconcile those two things in my life, my sexuality, my spirituality, and not being able to, and coming to a point of I fought it for 20, 30 years, and tried to change myself and couldn't, and then I began to come out and accept myself. So during that kind of liminal period of time when I was trying to accept my identity as a gay man, and which meant like letting go of some of my faith, some of my core beliefs, there was this very tense time and dark time, and to the point of feeling suicidal about it all. I was going to a therapist, and he said, you're the only thing you need to worry about now is surviving. Don't worry about trying to be successful. I was in between jobs. I was looking for a job and living with my mom in my 40s. So feeling pretty lost and not very successful in it all. And he said, don't worry about anything else, just surviving every day. And that's what it took. It was like one day at a time, really, trying to get through, relying on friends when I could, but really just having the mindset is like, my goal is to just survive. And then I thought, within myself, well, if I can survive and then even help one other person, that's enough of a purpose during that time to get me through. And so that's what I did. And that was now my early 40s, like almost 20 years ago, and found that over those next few years, I created a project that I talk about on this channel to help me also navigate the time, a year-long project, and that helped me focus my intentions for that year. And core to that was happiness and survival. And so I know what that's like, even though I wasn't in a concentration camp. I was almost like I was imprisoned within myself. And so that perspective helped just survive one day at a time, finding a purpose that will help propel you or move you forward or keep you going. And that can be really helpful. Another thing I've shared with you on this channel too, as part of my Project 46, I did this project where I interviewed people because I was depressed. I was interviewing people that came across my path about happiness and their secrets to happiness. And one of the people that came up to me at that time was my seminary professor, who was a role model to me, father figure. His name was Dr. Joy, and I reconnected with him. And he knew kind of where I was at the time, just very in a depressed and dark space. And he said, I didn't tell him I was suicidal at the time, but I think he was speaking to that too. He said, it's a shame if people give up in the midst of a difficult time or give in to suicide, because they could very likely become unparalleled experts on the very thing that they struggle with if they just survive, if they just keep going. And so that's another theme in my life that I've tried to remind myself of, is like this, whatever dark time that is, if I can just keep going, keep on keeping on. Sounds trite, but then I think it captures a real truth that I will someday get beyond this time. And whether it's years, for me it took at least 2 years during that time, but it took several more years of holding on before I began to see some internal change in me. And now I'm in a, for most of the time, even though I have moments of stress and anxiety because of current circumstances, I feel like I've developed a good life, a good, happy, gay life, and with good relationships and all that comes with that. So those are a few things that I've been thinking about, and I hope to provide some kind of perspective for you as well. And just a reminder too of some of my core values, core beliefs that I come back to. My friend again asked me yesterday, or a couple days ago, I was telling him about my stressful times. Like, well, he asked me, what do you do to manage that stress? And I said, normally what I do at all times, it's a maintenance thing. It's really a maintenance thing for me, is to check in with myself again, and there's 4 or 5 pillars that help sustain me. And one of them is belonging, connection with other people. Another one is transcendence, or connecting to something greater. That's why I'm here this weekend. We hiked a lot and we're out in nature, so I was trying to just breathe that in, being a part of something wild and bigger than myself. That was connecting to something greater than myself, transcendence. That's the second pillar. Third pillar for checking in with myself is a purpose, having a sense of purpose. And I have a clear purpose statement, so I remind myself of that purpose statement, which centers me and grounds me again. And then the last one is connecting to myself, being authentic like this. This is one way of being honest with where I am with people. I try to do that also with people in my life on a regular basis. So being authentic and telling my story to other people is another one. And then something I think is core to all of it is gratitude, especially during this difficult times, is being mindful of things that you are grateful for, things that can help you shift from what's going wrong to what's going right in your life. And reminding yourself of that regularly is something I've gotten away from, and I'm trying to kind of remind myself and build those practices back up, those gratitude practices. Again, that sounds kind of trite, but there's a lot of research behind the power of gratitude in different ways. And actually, just recently listened to this. I've done this gratitude project, where I've written letters to people and delivered them all over the country. And that really transformed especially during wintertime, transformed my seasonal affective disorder that I had for a while. It really transformed my brain chemistry. And but I've also recently found that it's even more potent as you receive or reflect on people who receive gratitude. Those who receive gratitude and are mindful of that and reminiscent of that and ruminate on that gratitude given to you are more likely to have a boost in mental health and well-being. But both are good, but if you can, and part of the exercise for me recently is to think about times that people have thanked me, or times that I've observed people receiving gratitude, and almost making that a meditation. A gratitude meditation is reminding yourself of that. For me, it's my mom. I would often, throughout her life, but also later in life, bring her flowers as an example, or just take her out to dinner to get her out of the house, or try to do things to boost her own well-being as she lived alone. And so her gratitude towards me, and just reminding myself of my relationship with my mom and her appreciation for our connection throughout my life as a meditation. That's been really helpful, and kind of getting me out of some of these negative spirals that I get into. So a few observations, things I'm thinking about, I'm journaling about, to try to buoy myself, to prop myself up, to help keep a sense of hope and purpose and well-being. So, and I think that's it for today. Let me just check. Oh yeah, a couple other things. So I've mentioned that I'm in the midst of this 21-day meaning and purpose challenge or project to present to the world my process, something I've developed. I call it the Good Life Positioning System, and core to that is a compass. So all this is a process to help you develop greater meaning and purpose, which again is core to survival, core to thriving, is if you could connect to that regularly. So I've developed a process, and I'm in the midst of this process of capturing my thoughts on that process, this compass, which is an acronym, stands for, see if I can think of it myself. So the C stands for clues and coordinating points. The O stands for origin story and heroic journey. The M stands for what makes you come alive. The M makes you come alive. The P is for powers and personal strengths. The two S's, the first S is sacred anchors and core values. And then the last S is a symphony of self-care and service. So those are like coordinating points of this GLPS, this Good Life Positioning System that I've been walking people through. And it could be really helpful to check in with that series and do the exercises yourself, not just listen to it, to take the time to do the exercises. That, for me, has shifted my mindset and mentality throughout my life as I've developed that process. It's been really beneficial to me. I've used it with clients, and I've done more research with groups before and after tests to see how it changes, and they've seen significant changes over even 7 weeks. So I think it's worth checking that out and seeing for yourself how that might help you boost and buoy your own mental health and well-being. And then the last thing, something I've mentioned a lot, is I go on these awe walks as a way to connect to something greater than myself. So I'm going to take you on an awe walk that I did yesterday around the campus here, and it wasn't raining, so you'll see how beautiful it was without rain. So that's it. I just wanted to check in and share a bit of my diary, my journal, and where I am personally, and trying to be authentic with the things I'm struggling with, the things I'm doing to help overcome those things. So hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time.